What transpired on the narrow streets of Monte Carlo wasn't a high-octane battle between the world's best. Rather, it was a strategic standoff that looked more like Mario Kart than motorsport, with drivers purposefully crawling to manufacture pit windows and overtakes nearly impossible. Many are now asking, has Formula One's most iconic race become its biggest problem? When drivers start apologizing on live TV, you know something's gone horribly wrong. This is exactly what happened at the 2025 Monaco Grand Prix, which was supposed to be one of the most prestigious and glamorous races on the calendar. The world watched in disbelief. This video explains exactly what transpired, why Monaco turned into a caricature of itself, and what that means for Formula One's future. If you value the sport's integrity, please subscribe, because what we're going to discuss is important. Music for many years. The 2025 Monaco Grand Prix was supposed to be a spectacle that celebrated Formula One's timeless splendor and technological prowess, but instead it served as a warning about the growing divide between history and contemporary racing realities. Monaco has long been considered the sport's most iconic event, a reminder of the racing golden age, but following this year's event, many are questioning whether it has simply devolved into a beautiful illusion, an untouchable artifact that is no longer useful. The noble goal was for F1 officials, who were under pressure from the media and fans, to raise the standard of racing at Monaco. Introduced a mandatory to-stop rule for this year's event. On paper it seemed like a clever way to shake things up. More strategy, more opportunities for surprise, more chances for the grid to reshuffle, but instead of unlocking dynamic racecraft, it opened Pandora's box. What we got wasn't a race, it was a slow-motion fast that unfolded in full view of millions. Take a closer look and you'll see the warning signs were there from the start. The very nature of the Monaco circuit, with its impossibly tight corners, zero runoff areas and narrow straights, makes overtaking virtually impossible, and in an era where modern F1 cars are wide, long and aerodynamically sensitive, that difficulty only multiplies. Drivers and teams know this, which is why qualifying has always been king here. But this year, with the added layer of a second compulsory pit stop, the race devolved into something else entirely. A high-stakes game of traffic management. Teams quickly realized that the fastest way to gain advantage wasn't through aggressive overtakes or daring tire strategies, it was through obstruction. Several squads instructed one of their drivers to deliberately slow down, backing up the field to create a pit stop window for their teammate Williams. Did it with Science and Albon RB, did it with Isaac Hayar and Liam Lawson. Although the method was obviously cynical and entirely legal under the present regulations, it made fun of the racing and resulted in hilarious scenes. It wasn't a clever strategy. The stewards disagreed and hit him with a drive-through penalty. But George Russell wasn't sorry. In fact, he perfectly captured the ridiculousness of the situation when he acknowledged, "At one point I was like, screw it, I don't care, I was going to finish nowhere anyway." Russell also refused to give the place back, claiming that he had no choice if he wanted to avoid contact. Russell Max wasn't the only one who was frustrated. The current world champion Verstappen had nothing but disdain for the race, pitting himself from the lead in the closing stages, knowing that it would not affect his standing. "You can't race here anyway," he frankly stated. "1 stop or 10 stops, it doesn't matter. I could have done 4 stops and still finished." P4. That's not an exaggeration, it's a damning indictment. These aren't remarks from novices or backmarkers, rather, they're from the biggest names in the sport. And when drivers are using sarcasm to vent their frustration, you know the issue is serious. Even the strategists and team leaders weren't eager to defend the charade. Verstappen even joked about making the race into a Mario Kart parody, suggesting that perhaps we should put parts on the car and throw bananas around. "It's not the way we want to go racing today," as James Vowes of Williams put it. As a kid you dream about racing in F1, then you come to Monaco and it's about driving as slow as you can to help your teammate. Wolff said on Sky Sports when asked about the tactics of the weekend. He didn't even make a statement. Instead, he merely shook his head in obvious disapproval. Min1 former world champion Jenson Button went a step further and said, "The drivers are embarrassed." And he's right, the Monaco Grand Prix has somehow turned into the very opposite of what Formula One should stand for, a parade of hype cars caught in a parade lap, with teams using chess moves rather than racecraft to gain an advantage. Charles Leclerc pushed hard behind Lando Norris, whose McLaren was managing tires while fending off to Ferraris and a lurking Verstappen in the final laps, in an attempt to salvage something dramatic. However, despite his best efforts, Leclerc never really threatened Norris. There was simply no room to pass without risking disaster. The result was a procession that was cloaked in suspense but ultimately devoid of action. It is worth celebrating that McLaren won Monaco for the first time since 2008, especially for Norris, who maintained his composure under extreme pressure. However, even he admitted in the post-race interviews that the win wasn't the most thrilling in terms of racing. "We won in Monaco, and it doesn't matter how you win," he said. "But yeah, I was nervous. It's difficult to dispute a well-deserved win in a fantastic race. But the bigger issue is that this wasn't a unique instance. Rather, it was a part of a longer trend in which Monaco has often placed close to the bottom of overtaking statistics. Although racing fans have long acknowledged that the spectacle is more important than the action on the track, this year was different. This year went too far, since it necessitates a reckoning when even the new regulations, intended to address the issue, make it worse. Formula One is currently at a turning point in its history. Will it continue to hold races at locations that are unable to provide genuine competitiveness, or will Monaco's legacy supersede the sport's dedication to fair and thrilling racing? There are some radical circuit modification ideas around. There are trade-offs with restricted grid sizes, reverse grids, and even Monaco becoming a time trial event. Alex Albon stared into the camera and said, "Sorry. This is the worst part of all of this." The drivers themselves were left to apologize for something they had no control over. It was one of the most candid moments in recent Formula One history, not because of a poor performance or a collision, but rather because the team as a whole had failed to put up a respectable show. Monaco is no longer immune to criticism, and, although Norris properly celebrated a career milestone, the larger picture of Monaco cannot be obscured by the event's brokenness from a racing standpoint. Despite its elegance, history, and wealth, 2025 might reveal something about the very future of Formula One. Should Monaco undergo a significant redesign or be eliminated from the schedule entirely? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. If Formula One hopes to remain the best in motorsport, it might need to begin by reconsidering the race that once defined its essence.